Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Agajanana Padmarkam Gajananam Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe. Welcome to all for this session on Ganesha Purana to chapter 27. In the previous chapter, we were hearing, in the several previous chapters, we were hearing the story of Daksha, who had a problem at his birth, though he was son of a king Vallabha. He was abandoned by his son, abandoned by his father, and finally he was saved by a great devotee called Sage Mudgala. And because of the same blessing of Sage Mudgala, he became the king of city of Kaundinya. And then from Dakshas down the line, 6, 7 generations passed, and they were all the king of that same city, Kaundinya. And in the same city, Bhima, the 6, 7 generations, he became the king. And in their tradition, starting from Daksha, they were worshipping Gajanana. For some reason, Bhima had forgotten to worship Gajanana, and because of that reason, he was not having any children. At this point of a time, some of us might even doubt that if you worship the God, He will bless you. If you don't worship the God, is it that He will going to curse you? Is it that He will going to create problem for you? No. Take it also in a positive way. God doesn't curse anybody, or does the God never will going to put obstacles. Of course, He creates certain obstacles in the life of an individual to help him learn a lesson of what mistake he has done. And the moment when he rectify himself, like the way a teacher punishes and disciplines a student, the God do punish and do discipline his devotee in order to bring them in the right path. By worshipping Gajanana, whatever temple that was built by Daksha, temple need to be taken care of over several generations. And if the king had forgotten that, the people will going to lose it, the society will going to lose it, so they need to do it for the sake of their society. So this is the way in which the Lord takes care of it through certain obstacles, which looks like a punishment, which looks like a curse, but soon that curse can be eliminated. So here the same thing has happened. King Bhima has heard about the lineage of what has happened in his family tree, and now he is asking Vishwamitra how he can do the worship of Gajanana. The sage Vishwamitra said, "Tell me, what remedy did the intelligent, compassionate sage Vishwamitra told to Bhima?" And when we say sage here, one who has asked this question was basically Vyasa. Vyasa was hearing to this story from Brahma. Maybe a little confusion here, because originally the story of Ganesha Purana was started with Suta telling this story to Shaunakas, and in that story, which the Suta was narrating it to Shaunakas, the story of King Somakanta came, and Somakanta came to Bhrigu Maharshi. So Bhrigu continued telling the story to Somakanta, and in that story of Bhrigu, Chaturmukha Brahma comes into the picture, and Brahma was telling the story to Vyasa, and in that story what came the story of Daksha. So I hope you still could able to keep track of it. So Vyasa is asking that question: what did Vishwamitra told to Bhima? How he could able to perform that particular worship? Brahma continued the story. He did not tell any remedy. Hear about the great one syllable. Sorry, he did tell Bhima about a remedy, what he need to do. The same remedy what was told to Vishnu by Shiva, or by to the Brahma by Gajanana himself. The same single syllable mantra, which even sage Mudgala gave it to Daksha in order to worship Gajanana. So the same single syllable mantra was told to Bhima. Vishwamitra, who knows the good law, was pleased and said to him, propitiate the deity, the Lord Gananayaka, with it and perform personal service in the temple that Daksha had built 7 generations back. Vinayaka will be pleased and will give you all your wishes, whether they pertain to accomplishment in the law, power, sensuality, liberation, or anything else that is desired. Return to your city, O King Bhima, and don't worry about anything. So he blessed King Bhima and told him to go back to his city known as Kaundinya, the same city which Daksha in the beginning started uh, ruling as a king. And it was Daksha who built a great temple in honor of Lord Gajanana. And in his lineage, all his sons who became the king, they were taking care of the temple. Now King Bhima will also go back to his city, take care of the temple, and perform meditation on that single syllable mantra of Gajanana. After he had said this and had made obeisance to him, the king then left, accompanied by his wife, and he rejoiced when he saw his own town. The two ministers went with the army and the citizens to the king, and they embraced the king, while some bowed at a distance, others who were close to him came close by, accompanied by them all. The king, on whose banner there is a bee, reached the city. It resounded with many musical instruments, had its roads moistened as a mark of taking the procession, and a fragrant smell about it. People said to each other, like a woman who had gained an husband, or a blind man who had gained a sight. Now our town, by getting their king back, has now become resplendent. That's how exactly a king was taken care of by their subjects, and also the way the king was treating his own, king was treating all the subjects as his own children. These are the days when people simply fight each other in the name of politics, because people are now more interested in power of a ruler, power of a ruler rather than duties of a ruler. When the king or whoever is ruling the state, if he is more concerned about his duties to be performed, then naturally people will respect him and love him as though he was their own father. If the king served the subjects as if they are all his own children, that is what exactly happened in the life of Bhima. That subjects were waiting for him to come back from the forest, and they were all delighted to see their king and the queen returning back to their city, because nobody there was fighting for power. They were all there to serve their duty. That is supposed to be the primary aspect to every politician, that they need to look at their position from the duty point of view rather than the power point of view. And if they look at their position from the power point of view, they will certainly going to get spoiled, and they will vanish away, and nobody will going to remember them in their history. It is only such people who saw their position from the point of their duty, they will be remembered in the history. Let's now continue. He stood in the palanquin listening, and so too did his queen Charuhasini. Both were adorned opulently with clothes and jewels, and being praised, both were full of joy. Both entered that delightful city that was filled with many kinds of wealth, and showered all the people with pearls, ornaments, clothes, and betel nuts. After they had left, both went to their own abode. Then, on an auspicious day, the king went to Daksha's temple, which is now in the dilapidated state, it's a bad state, where at all times he worshipped the mighty Vinayaka and became constantly occupied with fasting and a setting and the setting of his mantra in motion. Means he continuously keep reciting it in his mind. Even when he was eating, sleeping, moving, speaking, or even just breathing, the king has his attention undivided was always thinking about that same mantra all alone. Mantra reciting is something that is to be done by an individual in his personal capacity. So that he need to be keep doing it, whether he was eating, sleeping, moving, whatever he's doing, like a breath. It will never stops. The mantra should never stop. Mantra should go on, should be keep on happening in our mind. Even though we are speaking with for some other purpose, some other activity, some other duty, even if you are performing some other duty, the mind should be keep on repeating that particular name of the single syllable mantra. Remember, even psychologically, if you keep repeating a particular word repeatedly, it has its own effect. But what will be the effect of each of those words was scientifically classified by our forefathers. And they told that if you keep repeating a particular mantra, a particular single syllable or six syllable, five syllable, eight syllable, 23 syllable, there are different mantras, and different mantras when you repeat it, you will going to get these particular benefits. We may not be able to analyze it from the today's science point of view because the today's science might not have reached up to that level to understand how the karma what we are doing and what we are thinking in our mind, what we are repeating in our mind, and how it has its impact on what we are doing, though there may not be an exact one to one match between them because it's all based upon the social science or the psychology and not on the basis of pure science like physics, chemistry, and mathematics. So here the king Bhima was keep repeating the single syllable mantra all the time with undivided attention. The king saw the unsurpassed Vinayaka in water, on the ground, and in the atmosphere, in heaven, in a god, in a man, in a tree, in smoke, in food, and in drink. So wherever he was thinking of Gajanana means Gajanana doesn't sit only in the form of an idol. That's a speciality of idol worship in this country. Yeah. We put an idol in a temple and we keep looking at it for the purpose to have the image in our mind. And then onwards, we need to see that image everything in whatever we drink, in whatever we eat, or in whatever we see, in whatever things that comes in front of us, in everything we see the image of the same God. Means we started seeing the God everywhere. That is what is the omnipresence of the God. That He is there everywhere in everything that we use. And that is the way of worship. And not just worshipping only in a single idol. The king saw the unsurpassed Vinayaka, as I told before, in water, ground, atmosphere, heaven, God, man, tree. Even if somebody comes in front of him, he used to see the same Gajanana in him, on the ground and in the atmosphere, heaven, everywhere. Even in smoke, food, or drink. That means to that extent, when one considers that everything is a matter of everything is a source of worship, then he will have a equal in equality among all those things. He praises whomsoever he sees him intent upon a tight embrace. All the people in the city took him for a pishacha. They were assuming that probably something wrong has happened with our king Bhima because he started looking at everybody with a worshipping mood. He was trying to embrace everybody. He was trying to embrace even the tree. Even he was trying to embrace even some dumb particle that is sitting in front, lying in front of him, thinking even that is a form of Vinayaka. Then on one day, Vinayaka arrived and holding the king on the palm of his hand, he said to him, "O king, now you are freed. Tell me what you want." That's what exactly is the penance of seeing his God, his beloved God in everything. We do it. Often if you fall in love with a girl or if a girl fall in love with a boy, they used to see that girl or they used to see that boy in everything, everywhere, wherever they see. Such is the devotion. And in that place, out of sexual interest, or out of love, the uh, kind of attention that we were giving it to our partners, if that attention is given to the God here present before him, asking him, whatever boon you want, I'll grant it to you. Actually, the king started all this practice for the sake of having a son, having an offspring for himself. But now, after long time of undivided attention towards Gajanana, one day when Gajanana himself appeared before him, he asked and told the King Bhima, whatever you want, I will give it to you. But King Bhima is asking him, I know nothing other than your lotus feet. And then Vinayaka said, through my favor, he will have a handsome son endowed with good qualities, who will have a golden body. That means he will have such a celestial body. O king, go to your own home and devote yourself to the worship of the priests and the gods. After he had gone to his home, the king did exactly that and undertook the worship and the feeding of gods with all his heart and thinking, may Ganesha be pleased. After only a short while, a splendid son was born to him, and on account of his own son's birth, he gave many gifts and named him Rukmangada, as authorized by eminent Brahmins. In the past and even today, many people, when they put a name to their children, they choose a name which is having a very great meaning. And if they keep repeating that same word, the meaning goes into the mind of the children and that will go into shape their future. That is the concept of giving a name to a newborn child. So here, as decided by the learned people, the king Bhima gave his son the name as Rukmangada. Like the moon in the bright half of the month, the young boy grew prodigiously, and for his education, the king put his son under the care of a teacher. Simply by hearing it, understood what his teacher proclaimed. That's basically in Indian culture, it is called as ekasandhigrahi. That a disciple should be giving such an undivided attention towards a teacher. Just if the teacher mentions a particular thing once, the disciple should be able to remember it. Became the repository of all, the Rukmangada became repository of all knowledge that was taught to him, and he himself became a repository of knowledge and virtually another Gajakarna. That means another, as though he is another Gajanana himself. Rukmangada was exceedingly powerful and skilled in all the shastras. He performed a tiara coronation for him who possessed many qualities, and to the principal Brahmins he gave clothes, jewels, and money. That means the king Bhima, seeing his son became so powerful in all the Shastras, became so knowledgeable, he put him on the coronation. That means he accepted him and he appointed him as the next future king. After that, he too performed an additional large devotion to Vinayaka. Rukmangada continued his devotion, which is in their family lineage, and day after day he recited the single syllable mantra which his father was reciting all these years. So the son Rukmangada continued the tradition which he had obtained from his father. One day the heir apparent entered the forest, went hunting, and killed many guile and deer. When he became quite exhausted, he saw the hermitage of a certain sage, a veritable lattice of various kinds of trees and creepers, and full of animals, no longer hostile towards each other. Whenever the people used to visit that hermitage, the very hermitage was so calm because of the presence of the sage that even animal were not expressing a fighting mood, or they were no longer hostile to each other. So here the same thing has happened. Rukmangada He was appointed as the next heir to the throne. And then one day he went out to the forest for hunting purpose. And after a long period of hunting, in the past, it used to be a general practice among the king. In order to practice the war games, they used to go out hunting. Though in these days it has been banned because the number of animals has even in the forest, it has been so drastically reduced that if you keep doing similar kind of a hunting what they were doing it in the past, today one day all the animals in the forest will going to vanish. That is why these days it is banished. But in the past, there used to be a large forest cover, and the forest was always filled with animal. And if the animals, these animals, if their numbers are not controlled, they used to enter the cities and used to trouble the people, especially the farmers, in their agricultural producers and other things. That is why it had become a tradition among the king that they used to control the number of animal in the forest by frequently once in a while they were doing this kind of a hunting. But even then they were always maintaining an aspect that they used to hunt for only a limited period with a limited number of animal to ensure that the animal number to continue in the forest in order to bring in an ecological balance. That is the speciality. Thus ends the 27th chapter of Upasana Khanda of the glorious Ganesha Purana, in which we have seen how exactly King Bhima continued the tradition of Gajanana worship, and because of that reason, with the blessing of Gajanana, he got a son named Rukmangada, who also became equally knowledgeable and powerful, and he was appointed as the next future king to the throne. Namaste Sharada Devi, Kashmira Puravasini, Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam, Vidya Danancha Dehime. Goodbye.